I've been very fortunate to, I guess, to find my passion and then find the people around me to help me, make that happen. And that's it. I've been able to achieve what I set out to and what I dreamed to do for a living and a career. And it doesn't get much better than that.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Building a restaurant and running it for over a decade is no mean feat in Australia, or any country for that matter. But what is it like transferring those skills to building a property and farm? Matt Sinclair is the chef and owner of Some Young Guys in Noosaville. Matt, how are you?
Good, thanks, mate. Yourself?
I'm good. It's good to get you on the show. You've been on the soapbox, on the pans for a long time, and now you're building a farm.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a transition. We've just recently moved up here permanently now. So before that, we were kind of commuting to get up here to look after things. But now we've built a place up here and we've settled in. So it's full time and it's real.
What's it like getting your hands in the soil? Is there anything you can tell us about that you're growing?
A couple of years ago, we put in a whole heap of fruit trees. So from all sorts of citrus, mangoes, passion fruits, guava, lychee, banana, all of the Queensland staples, that tend to do well in this climate. I think probably one of the biggest things I realised since taking something like that on and being responsible for it and investing time into it is that it's a hard graft. Do you know what I mean? I think if anything, it's given me so much more respect for the stuff that just gets delivered to the door at the restaurant every day, because it's incredibly difficult to produce high quality stuff. That's for sure.
You've got some pretty amazing things growing there and staples for the sort of the tropics. Has there been any challenges in growing some of them?
Look, I think the hardest thing has been trying to figure out, why certain plants aren't doing the same as others. They're the same variety. They go in at the same time. You feed them the same. You give them the chook shit, the mulch, you do you tick all the boxes. And then for some reason that I haven't been able to figure out yet, some of them just don't kick. They don't produce. They're stunted. We're only a couple of years into this, and it's certainly on the hobby farm scale. But there's a lot of head scratching moments of just wondering what are you doing wrong, or what's different about the soil, because they're in a 1 acre paddock. So you would think everything should be pretty consistent, but sure as eggs, it's all different.
You've got Some Young Guys, which is an award-winning establishment. It's been around for a little while now. How are things travelling at the moment?
Yeah, look, Some Young's in a really great spot at the moment. The last couple of years have been a fantastic bounce back from obviously the COVID period, and we've had a fantastic year. There's been, don't get me wrong, it hasn't come without turbulence, but now we've got a really good solid team. We've got the aces in their places and the right people, and it's in a great spot. And it's the best time of year now in the restaurant industry and hospitality. As soon as it rolls over into spring, the festive season begins. You get things like, Melbourne Cup Day is probably a big ticket item that really, I guess, cuts the ribbon on the on the party season, and from then on away they go. So it's a great time of year. It's a beautiful time of year to be in a restaurant, and just to see all the cheer coming in and everyone getting together. Small businesses from town coming in to celebrate their year. It really makes us appreciate what we do and where we sit in the community.
Tell us a little bit about Noosaville and the food scene there, and how you've sort of been a part of the evolution and seen it evolve.
Oh, look, I think so. We started Some Young in 2017, and I think from that point, one of the biggest driving factors behind that idea and that concept was I was in Melbourne at the time doing Masterchef, and it was the first time I'd ever eaten a chin chin. And it just, coming from Noosa, I hadn't really, I grew up in Sydney, but I hadn't spent a lot of time in Melbourne. And it's something that really sparked my interest, just going to dine there. And it was like, okay, I think this is, Noosa needs something along these lines, because I think we were definitely up there with the first that ever sort of started to conceive the share style. And since then, you know, I reckon, especially in the past few years, there's been that movement where a lot of chefs from Sydney, Melbourne, you know, obviously they're tackling the Northern Rivers at the moment, which is a huge scene, which is extremely exciting up around Ballina, Bangalore, Byron, just absolutely nailing it. So it's exciting to get some of the young blood to come up north, whether they've come up here just to change or they've come up here to raise a family, and they start plugging into communities like Noosa and producing some really exciting food for our town, which for probably quite some time there wasn't a whole lot going on. But it's exciting to see that we're starting to get, you know, just fresh young people that still love hospo, guys that are incredible at cooking, and bringing it up here. So it's nice to see that movement.
You mentioned growing your own produce, but is there any producers of the region that you can tell us about that you've connected with that sort of exemplifies sort of what's going on there?
I think probably the biggest standout I can think of is a young girl by the name of Georgia. She had a 5-acre lot out in Verrydale, and we sort of, you know, she was just getting things rolling. She'd worked on a lot of permaculture farms, and she decided to have a crack, and she was doing it one out with, you know, no machinery, nothing to do any of the heavy lifting. So it was just her and her partner from scratch doing it all manually, but we're strictly wanting to abide by the organic ideal. And yeah, like we lined up with her. We just met fortuitously through a friendship, and we just sort of said, look, whatever you can grow, whatever you want to grow, we'll promise you that we'll take the whole lot, and then we can supplement it from other suppliers. And she just did a phenomenal job with the stuff that she could produce. Not just, you know, the flavour, the shelf life of it, the vibrancy of it. It was just remarkable. And for her to be able to do it one out was like, and I'm looking at, you know, my situation here, and she could just make things pop out of the ground. You know, it was good to see her. She started to get the confidence to go and approach other restaurants and wine bars in town to start to specifically grow for them. And now she's just sold that property. She's bought a bigger block to upscale and made a little bit of money now, so she can now buy a little tractor and do all those sorts of things. So really amazing to be able to see that evolution.
Well, I want to explore the path that you've taken in the food industry shortly, but take us back to when you were young. Whereabouts did you grow up, and what sort of role did food play for you?
I grew up in a suburb called Menai in Sydney, so sort of in between Cronulla and Bankstown, I guess. Yes, I mean, food was always a massive thing with our family. I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time in the kitchen with my great-grandmother, and even still, my grandmother's still alive. She'll be 90 next year. And she's been solo for 30-odd years and being able to cook for herself. And she still has a huge love affair with food, even at the age of 90, you know, when people start to, I guess, get over it a little bit. But she still loves to have those conversations about food. And when we go there to have dinner, there's still that buzz and excitement after 90 years on the planet of cooking and the amount of hours she spent in the kitchen. So, you know, that certainly rubbed off to me, absolutely. And I think it was highly emphasised in our family how important food was, or you know, over the top caterers always cooked too much, but always the chatter was about the food. And even mum, like even when we were at school, mum was an incredible cook. She did a lot of exciting dishes, whereas a lot of my mates were having meat and 3 veg. Mum would step out and she would do curries, she'd do noodle dishes, she would do sweet and sour pork, you know. So it was, we're talking, what's that, 25 years ago. She was sort of, I guess, up there with the Woman's Weekly at the time, trying all sorts of different things. And it was nice to have that exposure to it, to a family that was just open to trying all sorts of different types of food.
What about for yourself? When did you start to sort of think about food as a potential career?
I'd say I was probably about 18, 19. I was working at a restaurant in Cronulla, a place called Somersault. And I think that's where I really started to ask myself the questions is, where do I want to be in terms of a career? I'd been in hospitality since I was 14, 13. First job was in a deli. Second job was in a pizza shop. Then I went to being a waiter at a Greek restaurant, and then it just sort of rolled on from there. And then when I got to about 18, 19, started to forge really good friendships with chefs. And I think that's when I started to ask myself the question, like, I think I want to be on the other side, because I would find myself on my days off from working in front of house, all I'd want to do is go home and, braise something or have a crack at making fresh pasta. I just lean towards it, and I look forward to that time in the kitchen. I think the biggest thing and the biggest hurdle was going to be, well, how do I roll over? Because I don't have any formal training. I don't have the ticket. I don't have the apprenticeship. So I guess that's where I kind of toed and froed and didn't really make a move.
Well, a lot of your travels, you absorbed all sorts of delicacies around the world as well. Tell us about that period of time with your travels and how food inspired you.
Yeah, a lot of majority of our travel has been based around Southeast Asia. And that was just an incredibly exciting time and such an eye-opener. And again, one of those chapters that started to really cement that, okay, this is what I want to do. This is the food that I want to be involved with. And how do I start to learn more about it? How do I dive deeper into this stuff? So, it's one of the reasons why I love food and love this industry so much, is because it is endless. It's a pursuit into an abyss. You're never going to know it all. You're never going to eat it all. It's the chase and the challenge to just continue to seek.
Do you have a story of one of the trips that you took to Southeast Asia that you could share with us, of an eating experience or food experience?
I'll never forget the first time I had bún chả in Hanoi in Vietnam. I was walking through the street with my wife, and we could smell charcoal. We could smell something on a grill, and it was one of those scenarios where you literally just follow your nose. And we're walking around, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, I want to be a part of this. Where is it? And we just wandered, and we kept cutting back and forth through streets until we finally saw there was quite a few women set up on the side of the road with their charcoal pits out. And we'd been there for probably a couple of weeks now, but I hadn't seen this dish, because I find it sort of only tends to happen up north. And we sat down. She put down a beautiful plate of fresh rice noodles, and then another reason why I love that cuisine so much is all the platters of the herbs and the lettuce and the all the crunchy freshness that comes with it, and then taking the char grilled little pork patties and the char grilled pork belly off, dunk it into the sauce with the papaya, and it was amazing. It was incredible. And it was one of those moments where my wife and I were just looking at each other, how good is this? More of this. This is why we're here.
So you didn't have an apprenticeship or a ticket, as you put it. How did you make those steps into food?
I think, even before the whole Masterchef thing came about, I had decided to team up with a good mate of mine who's now one of my business partners, and we were sort of getting set to go and do the whole food truck thing. So we were like quite heavily invested in that, and we had the plan, and this is what we want to do. And then, funnily enough, my other business partner, so there's the three of us, myself, Mo, and Jeremiah. Jeremiah was working at Ricky's in Noosa. And the production team from Masterchef went in there, and they were just asking around, look, do you know anyone that's handy in the kitchen? Can you give us a number? Can you put anyone forward? So he gave them my number, and then rang me and said, look, this is not a G up. I've just given these guys your number, expect a phone call. And I was like, okay, yeah, right, whatever. So I was in the car with a 6-pack, on my way to Mo's house to start talking about the food truck. And I pulled over. I got a phone call from Emma Turner. She was the head of the production at the time. And she rang me and had that conversation. And then I went to Mo's house and I said, look, you're never going to believe this. I've just had this phone call. What do you want to do? It was, it was a very, very strange scenario. But I just, it was most certainly one of the biggest influences and reasons why I was able to, I guess have the confidence, but to be able to tick it off and just know and sort of cement, okay, I think I'm handy enough in the kitchen to be able to continue this on and really go head on into the industry in the kitchen side of it. And that's, that's how it all started. And I was very, very lucky to have the support of obviously my wife and family, but, the business partner at the time that was happy to be like, all right, you go and do this and I'll be here when you get out.
Well, that was many moons ago now. What did you take from Masterchef now that you're in the sort of real world? You've been running a restaurant for quite a while now. But what did you take into the food world from that experience?
I guess I'll never take for granted being in that bubble, as what everyone calls it, and purely being able to switch off from everything and just be fully submerged in food. So like I was there for 7 months. You are at the time we were in a house, there was 24 people living in the house, and from sun up to sundown and beyond, it's just everything is about food. So you're either cooking, you're tasting, you're trialing, you're reading, you're talking to other contestants about it. It was intense, but forever grateful for it because whilst the other people that were there weren't qualified and didn't have a heap of experience in the industry, everyone had something to bring to the table, and that they were very out of the box thinkers. So to be able to sort of sit around and share that and sponge off everyone, and vice versa, everyone was sharing. So that was probably the most incredible part of it.
What did you do after that MasterChef experience that got you into the industry?
So we picked straight back up on the food truck idea, and we based ourselves out of Eat Street in Brisbane. And we did that for about 6 months. And I guess, I explain it to people as in sometimes in life you need to do things to know that you don't want to do those things. It's like, yeah, I'm glad that we did it. I will never look back on that business move, I guess, as a bad idea. It really taught us a lot, but it also really helped us, I guess, clear up the focus on what we wanted to do and where we wanted to be, and we just thought this is just not it for us. We wanted something bigger, but I think we were probably a little bit too scared at the time to go bricks and mortar, because that's such a huge commitment, and it's definitely, I would say, the biggest thing that turns people off from taking that leap is you just think, shit, I'm locked in now. Like I've signed it. That rent is due every week. The power bills are due every week. Like it seems relentless and quite daunting. But I think after just putting our big toe in and I guess wrapping our heads around how to run a very, very small scale operation with the markets, we felt a little bit more equipped to take the step forward. And that's why we also teamed up with other people to make it happen.
Why Noosaville? Tell us about that sort of decision and finding a venue.
So we started the first 4 years we did at Sunshine Beach, which, I mean, we would talk Noose, everything's a stone's throw. So yeah, we did the first 4 years at Sunshine, and that was the a really incredible chapter, and it was a great space, but it was starting to get a little bit tired and we'd outgrown it, I guess. And at the same time, we were done with having a landlord. She made it a little bit tricky. So it was pretty much, it was just after COVID. It was like mid-COVID, and then this place that we're in now in Noosaville, Great space, ground level, lots of parking, a bit of a blank canvas. That it became up for grabs for sale. So we sort of, it was a bit of a difficult time because obviously COVID had hit. But that's when we started selling sauces. So we're doing just like pre-packaged curry sauces. We did red, yellow, green. And that was phenomenal. That really sort of took off a lot more than what we thought. And that enabled us to at least prove that, we're worthy to the bank to be able to lend us a bit of money. And we were able to purchase the place in Noosaville where we are now, mid 2020.
You mentioned how you're a little nervous doing the food truck to go bricks and mortar, but you've eventually gone down that path. What have you learnt, and what are the challenges to overcome for running, your own bricks and mortar?
Oh, I feel that the team is everything. The team is everything. Without the right people, without developing a positive, warm culture where people want to be, where people want to thrive, where people want to turn up, and have passion and care for what they do. If you don't have that as your ground level, then it's going to be bloody difficult. Because as much as, I think you would see a lot of business owners get caught in, I guess, the trap of micromanaging and thinking that they need to be there for, 300 hours a week to do everything and watch what everyone's doing. It's not physically possible. And if you want to be any good to the team, you need to be able to step away as well, to be able to come in with fresh eyes and fresh energy and to really be able to keep your finger on the pulse. So I think having the right people in the right places, a great management team, both front and back, is key. And just being plugged into the people and being aware of how they're feeling, what they need to give them the best possible workplace to thrive and give you an incredible establishment.
It's an amazing region. That's a real destination. Do you have to consider tourists and locals in sort of the offering, and does that change at different times of the year because of the clientele?
No, I think we've always been a firm believer in sort of sticking to our identity, and not coming and going and chopping and changing. So we've always just stuck to that, and we I guess initially you don't have that confidence, but once you get a few runs on the board and you've been around for a few years and the restaurant's doing well, then you just got to stick to your formula. Because the people that want to come will come. The people that come and don't enjoy it, they don't come back. But you find your people, and they're the ones that continue to return, and they're the ones that spread the good word. So, look, we've got an incredible local following. So don't get me wrong, they're seriously important to us, and they're acknowledged and looked after when they come in for sure. In terms of the peak seasons, now Noosa is a lot more consistent. Not like it was 30 years ago when I'd come up here for a holiday as a kid, and along Noosa River between February, March, they would shut. They'd shut the restaurants and they'd go away for it and come back for Easter. So yeah, I remember driving along the river with mum and dad and being like, what's going on? And yeah, that's what they would do. They'd have a phenomenal summer, and a lot of them would pack down for 6 to 8 weeks, shut the doors, and they go away because it almost wasn't worth it to them. So now there's a much more consistent trade. Obviously, Noosa has an incredible name and reputation amongst not just internationals, but the southern states. Sydney, Melbourne are huge part of the visitation and the tourism up here, especially when the colder months hit, because everyone wants to escape down there and come up here. So you find it just, yes, there's the peaks, but everything just spills over into the rest of the year and begins to fill that up as well.
Tell us a little bit about your food and what you're doing there at the restaurant. Is there a dish or two that sort of exemplifies your approach?
At the moment, we just put a new. So obviously we're quite driven in the Southeast Asian style of food. I wouldn't call us Thai. I wouldn't call us Viet. But I don't like to use the word fusion. It's modern Asian. We've been inspired by the greats that have come before us, and now he's back in the game. Marty Boats, long grain, and he's got short grain in Brisbane now, absolutely braining it. We've just sort of, we've been influenced and we've been inspired by all of those people before us, and we've just tried to put our own, I guess, style on it and our own stamp on it. So I'd say one of the dishes that we just put on recently is a little starter. It's a seared Shark Bay scallop from WA. And then on top, there's a little bit of a thickened coconut cream. On top, we have a dry green curry. So a green curry paste just cooked out, pretty much seasoned, but no liquids. So it goes in as a paste and it comes back out as a paste, essentially. So it's cooked out. It's got the fish sauce, the tamarind, the little bit of palm sugar, heaps of white pepper, lemongrass. It's very punchy. So a little bit of that goes over the top. A little bit of roasted macadamia, and then just a Thai basil leaf with a bit of the green curry oil. For me, that's a fantastic way to start. It's got all of the character and the spirit of the restaurant with the hitting those four flavor profiles: the hot, the sour, the salty, and the sweet.
Well, the restaurant's going along beautifully, and as you mentioned at the top of the show, you're creating your own farm there as well. What's next for you in the next couple of years?
I'd like to think another restaurant. I think we'll be in a position to go again. I definitely don't think that we're finished there. But I think a slightly, a different style. There'll only ever be one Samyang. But I definitely feel like there's some unfinished business there to put another style of restaurant in Noosa. I think there's a lot of gaps in the market. But it's just about, it's the phase that we're going through now is building the team, and acquiring the right people to be able to, I guess, free us up to take that leap and get the next one going. So that's what I would think would happen within the next 2 to 3. I would like to think.
Well, you've built an amazing career in food with one of the best restaurants in the region. What do you love about what you do?
I've been able to live my dream, essentially. Which I think that's not a throwaway line for me at all. I wanted to work towards being able to cook for a living, and I think I've done that in spades. And I do. I said it to my wife probably a couple of months ago. I was like, this is how I feel about it. I've been very fortunate to, I guess, to find my passion and then find the people around me to help me, make that happen. And that's it. I've been able to achieve what I set out to and what I dreamed to do for a living and a career. And it doesn't get much better than that.
Well, Matt, it's an absolute honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today to hear just a bit of your story. Good luck with the farm and look forward to what you get up to next. Please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks very much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.